Môre.
Môre. Gaan dit?
Ja, let's Clary man, but let's do this in English. So good morning to the beautiful ladies of Sterling that woke up this early in the morning.
Yes, it's very
good. So how are you guys?
Good, thank you. No complaints.
All right. This morning we're going to chat about a few things, especially to people that has just arrived or are thinking of coming to New Zealand. It's always a few questions that I get asked is, I don't arrive with enough money to buy cars or household stuff. How am I going to survive and so forth? But that is where you girls come in. Is that right?
Yes,
definitely. We try to help them.
Sterling Finance is in the... But why don't you tell us what you do? Now I want to tell people what you do. Why don't you tell us what you do?
Okay. So we assist with vehicle finance. Obviously, we assist new immigrants as well with no credit record, no deposit required. We also do small unsecured loans, which we call startup fees. So if you need to borrow extra funds to pay for the deposit of a rental house or washing machine, that kind of thing. Because a lot of new immigrants will come over with just a bag with with no furniture. So we can also assist with some extra funds to be able to set up in New Zealand.
And money is always a problem whenever you come from, especially countries like South Africa, where you got to take whatever you get there, divide that by 11. And then you arrive with a measly small handful of New Zealand dollars, which you can't really do a lot with. So
yes, and a lot of people, I was going to say, a lot of people are fortunate enough to bring over rands, which they can then buy a vehicle cash or set themselves up. But a lot of people are not fortunate enough to be able to do that, and then we can assist.
And that should not keep somebody from not coming over and getting a better life. So
not at all.
Yeah. The one thing that people wonder about is, can they start the finance process out of South Africa already, so that when they arrive in New Zealand, they've got a car?
Yes, most definitely. So usually what we would recommend is if they go on our website, there's an application link that they can follow. And we will only be able to sign contract on day of arrival. We won't be able to sign contract while they are...
No, I fully agree, but it takes a lot off your mind if you know that when you arrive here, you've got a car already and so forth.
Yes.
So, but if I want to buy a car from South Africa and that I will sign for when I arrive here, how do I do that?
So again, as Yolandi said, if you go onto our website, you can put in an application on our website or make contact with us via email or WhatsApp. And then we can start the pre-approval process whilst somebody's still overseas. And then there's a pre-approval in place, which gives the customer a great indication of, what the weekly or fortnightly or monthly repayment will be. And it makes it easier for them to then search for a vehicle whilst still overseas. So by the time they arrive in New Zealand, they've got an idea of how much they'll be looking at, and they can actually do a budget around that. And once they arrive, again, we can sign the contract and they can then take delivery of the vehicle.
I actually saw that you guys were selling 2 jet skis the other day. I actually think it was a very good price, that, by the way. So, but you don't sell cars directly, eh?
No, we don't. No.
I just want to make it clear that the Sterling cars is not part of Sterling Finance at all.
Correct. No, we do finance, and obviously with our customers, if we send out a pre-approval, they're welcome to purchase from any dealer or even a private sale. So if they do see something and it's privately owned, we are still able to assist with the finance and the purchase of that.
Yeah, I'm always afraid to do a private sale. I'm being quite frank. I don't think I will buy a car in New Zealand on a private sale.
No, it is a bit tricky always. Because you don't have the backup of the Consumer Protection Act. So it is definitely better to purchase from a dealer. I agree with you. But a lot of people would think it's a bargain and they would rather do a private sale. Yeah.
It is, man. You're always got to be afraid of a bargain. So, yeah, I'll only buy a boat or a caravan or something like that I know I can.
Yes.
That's only the best to get that done on the private sale. But yeah.
No, I agree.
What else can you guys help with? I know you can help with residence financing. Is that the right word?
Yes, you can call it that, but it's more like an unsecured loan because the visa costs has doubled in the last, I think last year, October. So yes, we can assist a lot of people with an unsecured loan for resident visas for the family.
It has become very, very expensive now. But and a lot of people don't have enough. How can I say? Don't have enough finances to even save money for that over the period of time. So
yes,
that's good if I can get help somewhere.
Yes, and
what else?
Small things that we also do is we've got a soft landing people that arrive from South Africa. At the moment, it's fully booked, but they're welcome to email us and just request dates that they're arriving. And
you got to tell people now what is a soft landing. It's not. People may understand it wrongly.
So a lot of people that decide to obviously come over to New Zealand, they don't have family or friends in New Zealand where they could stay for the first 2 months or 2 weeks until they find their own rental property. So this is what we call a soft landing. So our office is actually a house in a busy street in Auckland. So we've got 3 bedrooms, which then we could rent out to them to assist so they find their own property to rent.
And do you include a car as well or not?
Yes, we do have a loan vehicle for them if they wanted to use that just to get around and open up their bank account and IRD and get all of it in place before they have to start their work.
When I arrived, I had to book a place in the Airbnb because I was only allowed to be a few days in Auckland. My visa conditions was I was not allowed in Auckland at all, so I had to do some training in Auckland. And as I didn't know where I was going, I ended up in totally the wrong area in Auckland, in a Chinaman's house. But that was an experience in itself as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's always tricky.
Currently, the market is up and down, and I know interest rates have been high in New Zealand, but they are slowing down now. How are you guys experiencing that?
It has come down a little bit since last year, which is a good thing. I think we're heading in the right direction. It actually dropped on Monday for us again, which is good. So more or less at the moment, it hovers around the 9.99 mark. Yeah, which is like it hasn't been below 10 in a few months. So that was good news that it's dropped a bit. So which is great. Obviously for unsecured loan it's slightly more because there's no security attached. So it's a high risk. But for
my son actually said to me last night when he heard I'm going to talk to you girls, he said his loan has dropped by $60 per fortnight or something like that. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I've got a question from Vanita. Are you ready for a question?
Yes.
She's asking, sorry, I can't put this on the screen. She's asking what happens if a person defaults on their loan payments? What can they expect?
So that's a bit of a tricky one because if you default, there's a process that the finance company needs to follow if this happens. So what happens normally is they would make contact with the customer and they would try and find out why there was a default. Because a lot of the times the customer would like to they change their banks. So let's say I bank with this bank and now I move to this bank. And because of that change, there was maybe one payment that didn't go through. So they'll normally listen to the customer and try and assist where they can.
Yeah.
So it's not that they list you as a slow payer or list the default straight away. There is a process that they have to follow. So in most cases, they deal with the individual case and decide which route they'll go. They do have the authority to bump up your interest rate if they wanted to. But honest, in the past 10 years that we've dealt with this daily, we haven't come across one where they've literally just done it. They normally listen to the customer and the situation, before just doing that.
I know after COVID, there was a lot of, how can I say, situations like this.
Yeah. That had a bit of a bigger input in people's lives. I've got a question. If I should decide tomorrow to leave and go to Australia, all right, but I've got 2 cars, financed through you guys, what can I do?
So, look, obviously, you'll still be liable for the debt until the last cent is paid. So that is the agreement that you had signed when you entered into the contract. But what we find, there's quite a few customers that will call us up, and then we would say to them, send us photos of the vehicle and the description or the caravan or whatever security may be. And we then load it onto our Facebook page to see if there's not maybe one of our customer that's interested in that specific security. So we would try and assist that way. But again, the customer is liable for the debt until the last cent is paid. Okay.
Question from, sorry, I can't put these questions on the live call now, but it's on one of our other platforms. But Bernard Delport asking, is it possible to refinance a vehicle loan now that interest rates are lower?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
We'll have to see all the paperwork and submit the application to see what we've got on paper to see if it's viable to do it. Because sometimes, if you've only got a year or 2 left on that specific loan, it might not be worth it, because if we refinance, then there's new interest on there. So we have to. The answer is yes, but we'll have to have a look at the specific paperwork to see whether it's worth it or not.
Like at any time you can refinance, but you've got to be careful to not refinance just because of a lower rate and then pay more at the end of the day.
That's exactly it. Yes.
So Bernard, it is possible. You got to call Yolandi early this morning. Okay. Then I got another question coming from Angela Swart saying, what are the interest rates you offer on a standard vehicle purchase?
More or less, like I said, it had dropped this week. So more or less 9.99, 9.8 at the moment, which again is great.
It's difficult to say, but more or less.
More or less there.
So the interest rates will differ from person to person?
Yes.
Okay. I've got a very weird question. I don't know if you can answer this. You get this calculate or this credit score. So everybody's got a credit score. Why would my credit score go down if I do an application to HP or to purchase a vehicle and then have it financed? Why would my credit score be negatively affected by that?
So that's the thing. So we get this quite often where customers would have gone to a few dealerships before knocking on our door, and then with him or her applying so many times before, it affects the credit score, of course. So I don't know really answer that.
Yeah, it's just weird because I keep track of my credit score, and I applied for one vehicle at one place, and they took off 25 points from my credit score. I don't know why, and the only thing that happened in that whole period was this one vehicle. So and the company One, who does cell phones, they also did what do you call it, a credit check on me. So those were the 2 credit checks I had. But it's just interesting.
It's strange you say that because a few years ago, I can't remember what year, I want to say 2020, there came a thing into play where they actually had stated that, they wanted to give the consumer the free access to do the credit or apply to shop around so that it can be fair on them to see where they can get deals so that it doesn't affect your credit score. But they were saying that, I'm not too sure if it came into play or not, with what you had said just before, that it did affect you.
Yeah, no, it definitely did affect, not heaps, like 25 points. So I just gotta ask you this question. This comes from a question that was posted here. Do you guys have something like a debt protection insurance?
Yes, we call it the payment protection insurance.
Okay. Explain that to us.
So that one there, you get you get different ones. So if you are self-employed, it would be different. Whereas if you were an employee, so it would probably, there's a whole list of things that it would cover. But in a nutshell, is if you should be sick, if you get a terminal illness, it would settle your outstanding debt in full. If you have an injury and you can't work for X amount of days, it would cover your installment for X amount of days. Redundancy will also fall under that.
Okay, that's quite interesting. I mean, redundancy is on everybody's lips these days because it's very uncertain currently.
A lot of people don't want to take that kind of cover because it's not a cheap cover at all, but we would definitely recommend it.
Okay. The big thing about the redundancy covers is, even in my field, it's one of the most expensive covers for the amount of money that you do get.
Yes.
And I think that is because insurance companies have seen that it's a high claimable event. So
yes, no, for sure. And you know what happens on that note, what will happen is a lot of the times if we deal with customers and we discuss the quotation over the phone or over email with them, they would see the plus minus payment per week or per fortnight. And then if they go to the dealer won't quote with the insurances on, and then the payment is obviously cheaper. And then they'll come back to us saying, I went with the dealer because they're cheaper. But yes, they are, but you're not covered for this, this, and this now, which we've seen in the past is actually very important cover to have.
Especially in times like these, redundancy, I mean, it can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody. So I've got a question. What is the least amount of money you've ever financed?
The least?
$1,000.
Okay.
$1,000.
And what is the most expensive car you've ever financed?
Oh, you had a big one the other day, which was a camper van?
Yeah, camper van. I actually had another one yesterday as well. Then it's about 140,000.
Okay. All right. Question from Andries Graaf asking, can finance be obtained while you are still offshore? How would that work? I think it's basically the question we asked in the beginning. Yeah.
Yep. So we can do a pre-approval whilst you overseas, but we have to finalize the transaction once you're on NZ soil.
So Andres, it can happen, but you have to arrive here and sign before you're going to get the money. So you guys work with any of the motor dealers or not really?
I think we're familiar with a lot of them.
Yes.
Again, I think it makes it easier for the customer to shop around and purchase where they wish to purchase. Yeah. But because we've been around for some time now, we get familiarized with a lot of the dealers. So we know a lot of dealers, if that answers your question, but we don't work with specific dealers.
No. Okay. No, my thought is just somebody arrives here and brand new to the island, and the first thing they think is, where's the rain? Because it hasn't been raining for a while. and then they want to know where can I buy a car, and it's normally those people who would buy something that are unfamiliar to them, because a lot of the cars you get in New Zealand you don't get in South Africa. So
Yes.
that's a bit of a, you're sitting with all these new models that nobody's got an idea of how they work and so forth. And now suddenly you're in unfamiliar territory. So you guys will be able to redirect them somewhere and say, go and try this guy or that guy.
Yes, because normally we would ask them, what type of vehicle are they looking at? And then that then starts that whole conversation of, okay, well, I know this dealer is, well known for utes, or, or this is well known for, So we do that.
Yeah. To the South African listening, if you're listening from South Africa, a ute is a bakkie. Like a buck. Yeah, the terminology has changed a bit, eh? So, yeah, I would think these days that hybrid vehicles is probably a good thing to buy. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, we do have a few
starting to pick up that. Definitely.
We have a few customers.
Yeah, they're cheap to run. I've got a hybrid Nissan Note used for town. It's cheap to run. I mean, I can't even remember when last I put petrol in that thing. So, all right, we've got about 10 minutes left, so we got to think about something to talk in this few minutes. From your side, what is the best term to take an finance over?
I think it would depend on the customer's requirements again. I know it's when you just come over from another country into New Zealand, it's hard to wrap your head around South African rand versus the NZ dollar. So as we discussed earlier, you have to divide it by 11 already. So I think that if you can start off with a lot of our customers come over and they purchase vehicles around the $15,000 to $18,000 mark.
Okay.
Obviously, we do get customers that only buy for $5,000. But I think when you want to start small and just settle in before taking on something bigger, so that you can just find your feet. Because in South Africa, we're used to getting salaries monthly, so it's hard to wrap your head around. Now it's weekly and now it's fortnightly. So, a lot of people would, like to start small, and then once they settle in, they'll look at something bigger and more long-term, if it makes sense.
And especially if somebody just arrives and they don't even know where they're going to live and what.
Yeah.
And they've got all these bags with them. Normally they tend to think they've got to move the bags on one or another way, but yeah. I've got a question that came in. Andres Graaf asking, can a finance car be sold to another person?
It can be. So what will normally happen is that if they sell it privately, then they would pay the finance company, and if there's any money left overs, it would still be for the seller's account, because the seller needs to settle everything in full before the finance company will release the security hook that they've got on that vehicle. So yes, it is possible, but the seller needs to make sure that it's paid in full, that it's settled, the account.
But if I want to finance somebody else's finance car, that is also possible.
Yes, it is.
Yes, because then the new finance company will settle the current finance company.
So all that thinking of is the car fully paid and so forth will be on the new finance company, basically.
That's
correct.
They will have to see if this asset is encumbered and.
Yes, they do all the checks before dispersing the funds.
Okay. So you girls must have heard a few horror stories of cars not performing the way they should be after finance. And so what car brands should they avoid?
European?
I think European. Rather stay away from that.
And South Africans like European vehicles.
Especially the
Golfs.
Yes.
Volkswagen. But the thing is, New Zealand, the parts are very expensive. European vehicle is expensive to maintain in New Zealand. The parts are expensive. So we normally try and steer away from European vehicles.
But we do have heaps of customers that is happy and don't have any trouble with it. But it's high risk, especially if you want to buy it private as well. Then,
oh yeah, because you don't know where the vehicle was or maintained or one of those things. Yeah.
I know the AA has got a thing. They call it a pre-delivery inspection. So you would book online with AA, and then they would send out an assessor to have a look at the vehicle, and they do all the checks, and the report then gets sent to the seller and the buyer. So normally, if it's a private sale, we do recommend this, especially if somebody's on the South Island and they want to purchase a vehicle in the North Island privately. So that's a good way of making sure that you know what you are purchasing and what you're letting yourself into. I know it's a little bit of money to take out beforehand, but it's way worth it.
Definitely worth it.
Yeah. So how would I, if I buy a vehicle on the South Island and I'm not in the North Island, how would I get that vehicle to me?
Some of the customers will fly up, but we will. There's a third party that we use for delivery as well, for extra cost. But we get it a lot, but we do some of that.
Yeah. Because the cars travel between the two islands.
Yes,
you can do it these days. So yeah. All right, we're on that point where we're going to say goodbye to each other. So, would you please just give your telephone number to the people listening?
Yes, it's 0800 777 888.
All right.
And
another question
is sterlingfinance.co.nz.
Okay. Last question for the morning. Andries Graaf again. Is mechanical cover included with financing a car?
No, it's not included.
It will be an extra cost.
Okay.
To the customer, which we are able to finance into the vehicle loan.
All right.
So it's not for free, but it is an extra that you can add on to the vehicle loan.
I'm going to be made redundant. I can take redundancy cover with you guys. I can take mechanical cover and cover everything basically.
Yes, correct.
Right. All right. Listen, thank you very much for chatting with us again this morning. I hope you're the best, and I do believe that the business is going to pick up very soon. Everywhere on the island, as we've been talking, business has been going slow, but I think the turn is not very far off.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the time.
Yeah.
No props. All right, guys and girls, that's us with Sterling this morning, and we're gonna love you and leave you. So next week, same place, same time. All right. Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.